Hopefully you guys had a wonderful, did you guys have a good holiday season? I hope. Yeah. Did you guys rest, recharge, rejuvenate? I know, my friends, for me, it definitely was sort of a weird holiday because with having Christmas and New Year's falling in the middle of the week, did anyone have this like an experience of shoes in the dryer? uh, where it's like Monday, okay, I should work Monday. Tuesday, it's Christmas Eve, I'm not working. Wednesday, it's Christmas Day. Thursday, should I work? Should I not work? Friday, I should work. Oh shit, now it's the weekend. And then we had to repeat it all the next week for the new year as well too. So I hope that you've got, how many of you guys feel your momentum coming back this week a little bit? I hope. Yes, I love it, man. I want to give you guys a little data. I'm going to do it. It's going to be a little bit different call today for you guys. And I'm, there's so many different routes that I could actually go today with you. But I want to talk about lasting change, right? And I want to share with you today like a 3-step process that I teach, as well as, so today's not going to be, Emily, like a tactical, here's your scripts, here's your dialogues, type of call. I want to work on this today, right, for you guys. How many of you guys are up for a little like mental reset to get a strategy that is ultimately like that, Chuck, that I have used for a couple of years, that I teach to really create like some killer change and transformation and to be able to manifest some good shit? Are you guys up for that? Yes or no? Would you like to have that dialogue today, right? Versus, and trust me, yeah, I'm definitely going to be hitting you guys in future calls on tactics and strategies, but I've got a lot of tactics and strategies with you guys in the previous calls as well too. So by the way, Nazar, before I just sort of took the baton from you and ran with it. Is there anything you want to say to the crew, or anything that like, or do I got it and I can run at this point? So
Right.
let me give you guys, I'm going to take about 5 minutes really quick. And I just want to share with you sort of the outlay of what's being projected right now for 2025. Okay. Remember, one of the commitments that I think every great agent, Nazar, should have is the commitment to 10 to 15 minutes of studying the market every single day, both national and regionally, or locally for yourself. I'll speak for myself. Dude, I fell off for 2 weeks listening to the important talking heads that I need to yeah, I just got disconnected. And so like just getting back re-engaged. If you would please, hey Bob, you guys just write down, get back to 10 to 15 minutes a day of Keeping Current Matters, Altos, Housing Wire, Mortgage News Daily. Because we probably fell off a little bit. And Ryan, you and I both know if we're educated, we want to educate. And if we can educate, we can control a narrative for the client, which means we can move them forward with a little bit more certainty as well too. So just remember my 4 go-tos: Housing Wire, that I recommend for you guys, Housing Wire on the daily, right? And Housing Wire Daily, which is the podcast. Logan Motoshami just came out with a really great podcast that I think all of you guys should listen to about forecasting for 2025. Number 2, YouTube, Altos Research, Mike Simonson. Ryan, number 3, Mortgage News Daily. And then number 4, Hannah, Keeping Current Matters, KCM. Okay. So what I want to give you to like here in these next like 4 minutes is just sort of the outlay of what 2025 is projected to look like. Okay. By the way, do you think 2025 is going to be a better year than 2024 was? Yes or no, from a sales standpoint? Yeah. The data isn't officially in as of yet in terms of the total number of sales that we had. The November data showed that there were 4.1 million sales. I think it's going to come in sub 4 million sales nationally, probably 3.8, Nazar, to 3.9. I see you nodding your head with the December numbers, which will be the lowest number of sales that we've had since 1995. Just to put that in perspective, my friends. And that doesn't even take into account the increase in population, Ryan, you know what I mean, from 1995. So it definitely was a constricted year. Here's the really good news, okay? The projection for this year in terms of total number of sales, you guys ready? 5.1 million. Yes. Okay. Right. 5.1 million. That means a million plus more sales taking place this year nationally than what we saw last year. Could everyone just give me a hell yes on the count of three with a big smile on your face? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hell yes. Now, are we out of the woods? No way, right? But it definitely should be a much more feel like a much more open market. And many of you guys, are you guys feeling that yet at the beginning of the year, that there's, even with rates where they are, that we're beginning to actually see a little bit more openness in terms of sales and a little bit more activity? Yet? Yes, no, maybe so. Show me like yes, it's the same, or it's down. I'm just sort of curious. Like, just give me like you're noticing like, hey, there's more activity, it's the same amount, or there's less activity. Just show me on your thumbs, just so I get an idea. Okay, John, up. Chuck, Houston, sideways. Ryan, where are you located, man? Oh, you're in Inland Empire, right? So, okay, cool. So one last little data set for you guys. So first of all, hopefully that breathes some life into expectation for this year, okay? Because if you look at that, if we do, my friends, come in 3.8 minus 5.1, that's 1.3 million more sales, or an increase of 34% in the number of sales. So I'd write that down. So what that means for me, John, is if you guys didn't up your goal by 34% over last year, I'm going to punch you in the throat lovingly. Okay. So that's the game, right? Just the market should be able to breathe life in there. Write down for me, if you would, interest rates. Write down interest rates. And just go Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Write down Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And the projection for rates, by the way, does anyone know where we are today on a 30-year fixed? 7.17, right? Whoo! Expect that it'll probably go up to 7.25 before it comes down, okay? Yeah, Andrew, it was 7.15. It actually just adjusted like while we were on this call, went up 3 basis points. Okay, so it's at 7.17. It was at 7.14. It's at 7.17. Obviously, you could see lower numbers than that if you're working with a builder. You got buy downs and other things along those lines. But like the base rate right now, the normal rate is 7.17. Like I said, expect it goes up to 7.25 before it comes down. Here's, now this came from, hold on one second. I'll actually pull this up for you guys. Where is it? Q1, write down 6.65. Projection is 6.65. Q2, write down 6.45. 6.65 Q1, 6.65 or 6.65 Q1, 6.45 Q2, Q3, 6.35, and Q4, 6.30. Now, that could change. If we get oil prices coming down, we could see inflation go down, the Fed. And by the way, the Fed has a 92% chance, you may want to write this down, of cutting rates or not cutting rates. 92% chance of not cutting rates in the January meeting. So that's what we're seeing with rates. Thoughts on that, guys? Thoughts?
Bill,
concerns?
it just came across my newswire that the Fed governor says that the December rate cut is the last one.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So that 92%, if you go to CME Group, and by the way, Nazar, I'll send this over to you. I've got some slides for you guys that you can actually use and be able to actually send out to your clients. 92% chance of no cut. Okay. Right. So we could be done with the cuts until we actually see some inflationary easing, which is going to be attached to oil, whether oil prices come down or not, affecting all cost of goods and everything else and travel, et cetera. Okay. So what does that mean? It means we are in a skill-based market for 2025. Again, guys, does that make sense? Where what you say, how you educate your clients, et cetera, and how you be able to move them forward really matters. That's why, hey, Nazar, on our next session, I'm absolutely going to be working with you guys on scripts, dialogues, and the skills necessary to move clients forward and get more appointments. Does that sound good, guys? Okay. All right. Okay, beautiful. So last little bit, write down home appreciation, projected home appreciation. And let me see if I can pull this up. Give me 1 second. I think I've got this right here. Just froze. Write down 3%. It's a projected 3% increase nationally. Now, Emily, regionally, it could be a little bit more as well too, right? Like depending upon, like I know Florida is projected to be a 4.5 to 11%. So take a look at any of the data that you have regionally for you or locally for you or for your state. But nationally, we're looking, Ryan, at a 3% appreciation. So the good news is rates are going to come down slowly. Prices are going to continue to go up slowly, and we're just in a normal market. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. And there's going to be more sales. There's going to be, over 1 million more sales. So let me pause really quick before I jump into what I got for you guys here today. Any questions, clarification, etc., how to be able to use this, thoughts around it? How can I clarify more if you guys need it? No? Now, should you get this information out to your clients, guys? Yes or no? 100%. And Nazar, immediately after this call, I will send over to you. There's a couple of slides from KCM that I got from David Childress. You can get this out to everybody. What I would do with the slides, guys, I'd put it in an email. In the subject line, Keith, it would say new data that impacts you as a buyer or new data that impacts you as a seller. And then it says, hey, Nazar, as promised, I always want to keep you abreast of what's going on nationally and also here locally in our markets. Here's the most recent data about what's going to be taking place in 2025. We need to jump on a call and talk about how this impacts you. Okay. We need to jump on a call and discuss how this impacts you. Okay. So, all right, cool. So I'll get all that over to you. Would you guys like that? Yes. Beautiful. Okay. So for 30 plus years, guys, I've been involved in the real estate space. For 41 years, I've been exposed to some of the best minds in personal growth and development. I have codified a specific strategy that really I found for myself and the people that I teach it to helps create transformation and lasting change. And I would imagine every single one of you on this call, how many of you guys are committed that 2025 is your best year ever? Yes or no? Like give me 2 hands and some feet and shit, man. I want to know that this is it. This is the year. And here's what I will say to you. Okay. To create change, you have to change your identity, guys. If you want to create lasting change, the biggest challenge that I notice in human beings, it doesn't matter if they're real estate agents, stockbrokers, a mom, a dad, whatever. If you're going to change, have a lasting change take place, it requires an identity shift. And write down identity equals the story I have about myself. Identity is the story that we have about ourselves. Most people's story that they have about themselves is rooted in the past. What they did, what they didn't do, how they were conditioned, what their mom said to them, what their dad said to them, what their church said to them, what their teacher said to them. Like, how many of you guys can recognize that our identity has been based upon most of us experiences that we had in the past, guys? Yes or no? Okay. Someone unmute themselves and tell me why that's a challenge. Why is the identity of the past a challenge for transformation in the future, do you think?
I think we believe the lies that we've been told about ourselves or others have said that we really have believed.
Yeah, totally. And if all we have is the past to define what we're going to do, we're going to end up repeating more of the same shit. Does that make sense, guys? I really want you to get that. And so if you want to create change, if you want to transform, if you want to manifest something into the future, it requires you having a new identity. Now, think about this. How many of you guys have ever met someone that lost weight only to gain it back again? Yes? Okay. How many of you guys have ever seen someone stop drinking alcohol only to slip back into their old habits sometime in the future, right? Okay. Or better yet, think about this. lottery winners. What do we know a high probability is going to happen with people who win the lottery?
They're going to be broke again.
Isn't that the craziest shit? Like most lottery winners actually find themselves in 3 to 5 years in a worse financial situation than they were before they won the money. Why is that? Because their identity didn't change. Does that make sense? You gain the weight back because you don't relate to yourself from the future. You get pulled back into the past. So what I'm going to give you guys here today is super cool, and I'm really excited to share it with you. One of them I know you've heard before. Like I would bet on one of these techniques. One of these strategies is something that you've heard before. Two of them are something that are completely, you may have never heard before, minus Chuck Miller and a couple of you guys that are on the G3 Nation. All right. Because here's what I look at. There are two killers to you having a breakthrough: ego and your belief. Okay, guys? And I want you to write that down. Two things that will stop me from being able to actually transform, have a breakthrough, be able to move forward. Number one is your ego. And number two is the belief system that you have about yourself or about what it is that you can do. Now, do me a favor, all of you guys, big smile on your face, point at yourself and go, yes, coach, I do have an ego, on the count of 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes, coach, I got myself an ego. And then ego shows up in when we start doing something well, and then we go, dude, my ego kicked in October. I dropped 26 pounds over the course of 34 days. It was insane. And then all of a sudden I said, Ryan, oh, you know what? I can sort of chill a little bit. I'm going to have that martini now. I got this, man. I hit 193, which was the lowest I've been, which I'm back at 193, right? Because thank you. Like through the holidays. Oh my goodness. But what happened was I recognized that when I said I'm 193, my old identity started pulling me back. Does that make sense, guys? And I'm like, oh, I've never been lower than this. Oh my gosh. And because I didn't shift my identity, I started to creep back, got up to 201, 202, et cetera. My ego kicked in. Does that make sense, guys? So you're going to love this. I can't wait to share it with you. There are exercises that become tools. And I want you to understand there's a difference between this. An exercise is something that I do one time. And a lot of times we'll go, look, you go to Summit, you come to one of my events, you go to a Tony Robbins event, whatever, and you do like an exercise. And how many of you guys have felt that like, oh my gosh, man, this is great. But an exercise is only good for the moment and to create short-term motivation. The tool is what you use on an ongoing basis to create lasting change, right? So you'll hear me refer exercise, tool. You're going to do the exercise that I'm going to give you, but I want you to use it as a tool, and I'll give you the exact strategy for that. So here is number one, okay, guys? Here is number one. Write down the first thing that you need to do to shift identity, to have transformation, have breakthrough. Write down, create the avatar of your future self. Create the avatar, Lauren, of your future self. Now, what is an avatar, my friends? Now, hey, by the way, before you answer this, Nazar, this is something that I wish I learned at 22, 23 years old, by the way. Like I got this when I was 51 years old, Ryan. And I look back and I'm like, oh, dude, if I had this in my 20s, where would I be right now? Okay. So I want you to know this, what we're going to do this, and you're not going to do it on this call. I'm going to challenge you to do it outside of the call. This has been one of the most impactful exercises and tools I've ever experienced in my life. Okay. So what is an avatar? How would you define an avatar, my friends?
The persona that you want to be, like the ideal.
Yeah. That ideal version, that future version of self. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. And I'll give you a quick short story. Some of you have heard me share this with you. Some of you have never heard this before. I went down to Mexico, had a fun time in Mexico, was an idiot in Mexico. Have any of you guys gone to Mexico, had a fun time in Mexico, or any vacation, and were a little bit of, you weren't like a total bozo, but you definitely weren't being your best version of self? Have any of you guys ever done anything like that where you're just like, oh shit, yeah, I did what? Anyone besides myself? Get your damn hands up. Either you guys are Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, or you're lying right now, okay? And Ryan, I came back, and Anna, who was my girlfriend at the time, like she left early because she had to get back to her son. And I got back home, and she said to me, she goes, I'm done. And I was like, what? She's like, I'm done. And I go, what do you mean you're done? She goes, yeah, that guy that was down in Mexico, that's not, I don't see that as a person that can run the type of company that you're looking to actually build, right? And what do you think my response was? Like, I didn't say anything. I just sort of sat there a little bit dumbfounded, et cetera, and like, I would love to tell you that like my elevated, high conscious individual, was like, gosh, man, hey, thank you for this wonderful feedback. This is amazing. I'm so grateful for it. But honestly, in the back of my mind, and I mean this with no disrespect for her, because I have total respect for her, right? In the back of my mind, Emily, guess what I thought? What a bitch. Like, honestly, like, I'm like, don't you know who I am? Like, type of bullshit, right? And it just like, but about 72 hours late, like, how dare you? I wish I was like a how dare you. I'm like, man, what am I, right? And so 72 hours later, after I let this settle, I said, you know what? She's right. Oh my gosh. You guys ever had that happen before? Yes or no? Where like it begins to sort of like the dust settles and you're like, oh shit. And it made me start to think about something. It made me start to think, because I've got a goal, just so that you guys know, not only to help 1,000 people get to $1 million in real estate production, right? $1 million worth of GCI. That's the big goal of our company. That's why I exist. That's why this company is here. But it's also the measure of money is a $25 million company. All right, that this company generates $25 million worth of revenue, just like Nazar has the vision of 5, that it is the highest producing real estate company per person productivity ever created in the history of real estate. Isn't that rad that you guys are part of that? And so what happened was this, guys, is I sat down and I said, if I was already be running that company, who would I be? What is the avatar of the human being that I would be? And I ran it through, and I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to have you write some things down, okay? Write down just these words. Think. What would this person think? Number 2, look. What would this person look like? Number 3, the word interact. How would this person interact? Number 4, how does this person eat? Number 5, what is this person's key habits? This was a big one, because it wasn't just about business. I was like, who is this man, Jen? Does that make sense? So there's another part besides just this businessman. I said, how does this person relate to their spouse or partner and interact with them? What type of parent is he? I think I gave you what are the key habits that he has, and what does he drive? Where does he live? How does he dress? I mean, Nazar, I took a good week and just like wrote down in my composition book who that person is, right? Right. And I would go through, right? I go, oh, no, that's not it. Oh, that's it. Oh, what about this? And then finally I went, okay, there it is. Right. Now, that was the exercise. Does that make sense, guys? And the exercise itself was really powerful. But what I did is I created a tool. I created it as a tool. And how I created it as a tool is I said, well, I need to keep this person in front of me on the regular basis. So every morning when I wake up, Ryan, guess what I'm doing? I make my electrolyte to open my electrolyte water. I drink that, Ryan, right? And then Sandy, I take out my composition book and I go, okay, let me reacquaint myself with who I call 25 mil Bill, right? And that's my avatar is 25 mil Bill, Joan. And I go, okay, good. And so that helps me because what we focus on expands, does it not, guys? Okay. What we focus on expands. And I knew that that exercise wasn't enough, that I needed to actually have it as a tool. And then as I'm making, this is where it gets really fun and super juicy. As I'm making decisions throughout the course of the day, Bob Jones, guess what I asked myself? What would 25 mil Bill do right now? Right? It becomes like a sounding board. That person, that avatar becomes a sounding board on how I'm going to act, how I'm going to think, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to lead, right? There are moments, Nazar, where I literally want to go, I am firing everyone in my company and I'm going to start all over from scratch. Any of you guys that have ever had a team, you know those days and you know those moments, right? Okay. And then I have to go, okay, let me refer to my director of the board who is 25 mil bill. What would you do right here? You'd be more patient. You'd actually ask more questions, etc. And in that moment, in that gap, it gives me the chance to make a new decision. Does that make total sense, guys? Yes or no? Right? And Joan, it's gotten easier and easier. Now it's almost like, okay, what do you do? All right, it's almost like an automatic type of thing. But at first I had to have, well, what do you do? What would you do? What would you do? I'd sit down as I'm planning out the next day. Can you guys see the power in this? Yes or no? See, because what happens now, check this out, Chuck, is that future is pulling me forward versus the past defining who I am, right? And it's incredibly powerful. Now, here's number 2. So I want you guys to do the exercise and just test it. Please, 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 please test it for 7 days and see what happens. At least do the exercise, then test it. Here's number 2. Remember, 2 killers for transformation: ego and belief. This is a big one right now. I love Napoleon Hill's quote that says, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, he or she can achieve. One of my favorite quotes. Whatever the mind of man or woman can conceive. I got it in my head. But what a lot of people think is, oh, I just need to think about my goals. No, you have to believe it, right? There has to be a very strong, what I call BS. Please write down BS. Does anyone know what BS stands for? It's not what you think.
Belief system.
Thank you, Christopher. That is exactly correct, right? See, here's what I know about being an entrepreneur, which all of you are. Will you be challenged as you're going for a bigger goal? Yes or no, guys? Will you be challenged? Will the universe, will the world, will the market, will you be challenged? You better believe it. Number 2, or the second question I have is, will you feel, if you've got a big goal that you're going after, a big change that you're looking to make, will you feel like you're failing, my friends? Will you have those moments where you're like, I am totally failing right now? How many of you guys have ever felt that, leaving a listing presentation that you didn't get, with a buyer deal that falls out of contract, an appointment that you didn't get, a past client that worked with somebody else, and like all of those are like the reality of real estate, right? Where you're like, I'm totally failing, right? Nazar, you don't have those thoughts anymore, do you? Yeah, just like every day, 8 hours a day, right? Like that's just the sign of an entrepreneur, sign of someone going for something, is that dissatisfaction. And the other thing I would say to you is like, they're gonna have all those moments that you're gonna want to quit, whether it's quit on a strategy, quit on what you're going after, et cetera. So because of that, you need to have a very strong and work on, like a belief system is something that you work on. It's not something that happens to you. Listen to what I just said to you. If you're going to create a strong BS, okay, like if you're going to have a strong BS, you've got to work on it every single day. Now, my buddy Jimmy Rex, who I love to death, gave this to me. And this is the second part to the trifecta of what it is that you need to be doing. By the way, is it okay if we go 3 to 4 minutes over, guys? Are you cool with that? I know, like, you should just like cushion 5 minutes because it's me, right? And I can be a little long-winded sometimes. What I want you to do is this. I want you to come up with the 50 reasons that you know you are a badass. I want you to sit down and write out, Justin, Lauren, 50 freaking reasons that you are clear, Ryan, that you are a badass. Now, this goes back to, I could read you my list. This goes back to, like, I put things on my list like, I am the son of a single mom that worked her ass off. I watched her like sacrifice. She was my example. That's why I'm a badass, right? Right? I played football, right? Yeah, like and was able to actually in a very quick time lose a lot of weight, become one of the top football players on my team in Deweyville, Texas, right? And I just went through everything. Like I lived in Southeast Texas in a town called Deweyville. I had a picture of a silver Porsche up on my wall. Guess what? I've now bought 2 Porsches. Guess what color they are? Silver, right? I was able to and I just go through all of these things and these reasons, and I came up with 50 reasons that I'm a badass. Now, why is that so important, my friends? Why do you think? What's the purpose of that? Why do you need that?
Affirmations.
So it's almost like an affirmation, but you know what, Christopher, what it is It is. It reaffirms that if I could do all of that, then I can take on whatever it is that's in front of me. Does that make total sense, guys? Yes or no? That if I did all of this, Tammy, shit, I can do this, right? Because I've got to sell myself. Because again, I'm going to be challenged. I'm going to feel like I'm failing. I'm going to feel like I want to quit. But if I look at that list, now that's the exercise. Here's the tool. Now, every morning I wake up, guess what? Get my element electrolyte, get my body going. I'm sitting there. I put on my spa music, right? That's in the background before I go to the gym. I take out my avatar. What's up, 25 mil bill? Let me get to know you again this morning in case I forgot who you are. Then I take out, let's go, Pipes. Why do you know you can do this? Here's the 50 reasons you know you can do this because you're a badass. And I go through that. And by the time I get done with those two things, guess what? I'm feeling pretty good. Does that make sense? Right? I don't need a mocha flocka jocka. I don't need whatever it is that Starbucks has, man. That's my caffeine. Right? People always ask me, Pipes, how do you maintain so much energy? Would you guys say that energy is a little bit of my superpower? Yes or no? You know, I will out energy any mofo. And you know what's crazy, Jen? I don't drink coffee. I can't. You know what I mean? Like I'll blow up. I'll like explode. But this gets me so jacked that I can't wait to take on my day. Here's number 3. And number 3 is this. Make sure that you've created your future or prophecy letter. Make sure you've taken the time. This is the thing that you guys have probably already heard before. Number 1 and number 2, you've probably never heard before unless you heard it from me, right? Because both of those are things that I primarily teach. But how many of you guys have ever created one of those future letters before in your life? Tammy, yeah, Hannah, Christopher. All it is, Keith, is it's a letter you write to yourself or to Nazar or to whomever on December the 31st, right? Where you're saying this right here, hey, it's December the 31st. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, this is the most amazing year. Here's what happened. And you just lay it out as if it's already occurred. Does that make sense, guys? Right? And it's like juicy, it's good, it's engaging, it's involving, right? And so now watch. That's the exercise. It's a tool because guess what the third part to the trifecta every single morning is? Read your avatar, acquaint yourself with your future self. Number 2, read the list. Why do I know I'm a badass? Then number 3, read your future letter about what your life is going to be like, right? And it's written in the past tense, right? Like that's the key is that you write it in the past tense. Sitting here in Costa Rica, I'm looking at the beach. Oh my gosh, what a great, incredible year this was. Man, I just want to say thank you, Nazar, for your ongoing support. Being part of Five was one of the best decisions that I ever made in my entire life. You know, I was able to hit some of my primary goals, right? Being here in Costa Rica is one of them, right? With my lovely spouse, my family, my whatever. And you write that letter. Because here's the key on this. And this is the first 2 things are logic. This third piece is emotion. And I want you to write this down. Logic gets you to think, but emotion gets you to act. Logic gets you to think, but it's the emotion that gets you to act. So you create this emotional letter about what the year was like, right? Because watch, whatever you focus on expands. Does that make sense, guys? Whatever you focus on expands. I will tell you, this right here has had one of the biggest impacts. Doing these exercises, right, is what I attribute. Now, do you still got to work? Hell yes. But there's a difference between taking action and taking inspired action. Have you guys ever felt that before in your life where you're just either just going through the motions or you're diligently inspired to be doing what it is that you're doing? And can your clients feel you inspired, my friends? Yes or no? Okay. Can you tell when I'm inspired? And when I look, there may be some calls where I'm not inspired. You're going to go, what was that with Pipes? I hope not, right? If I'm doing this, that won't be the case. But so Emily, my coaching to all of you, my assignment to all of you is going to be to take these 3 things, complete them. All right. At least if you're only going to do 2 of them, do number 1 and number 2. Does that make sense? Number 3 is the bonus, but at least do number 1 and number 2. I promise you, it will create an insane shift in the way that you relate to yourself. The identity will change. And from that identity changing, more action, different thought, different habits actually evolve. Nazar, anything you want to say about this, brother?
No, I mean, I think it's spot on. Like the energy that we have has a direct impact on how, not only how we feel, but how people perceive us and then people receive us. So that,
Do you know what's crazy? Nazar, Mike Ferry said this to me one time, not to me. We're talking to any of you guys, were any of you guys involved in MFO, Mike Ferry organization? Any of you guys? Yeah. Do you remember David Long, Nazar? He was one of the speakers. Tammy, do you remember David Long? No. David was a good speaker. We wanted to make him a great speaker. And Mike said this to him because David was like not super inspired. And Mike said, it's impossible for you to be inspiring if you are not inspired. It is impossible for you to be inspiring. Now, watch. Do we need to inspire our clients to take action? Absolutely. The energy that you have when you make the calls needs to inspire them into action. Who you are when you show up on a buyer consultation or to show a property needs to inspire them about living in the house. How you show up on a listing presentation needs to inspire them about the move and that you can get it done. And inspire means nothing more than to breathe life into. That's all you're doing is breathing life into the actions that they need to take. So my friends, I know today was a little bit of a different call. We will get back to the tactical, but I wanted to share with you what has made an enormous difference for me and my clients in our lives and my life. And hopefully you grab this and run with it as well too, okay? I guarantee you it will make a difference. I love you guys. I appreciate you. If you're in LA, we're sending you guys some energy right now. We wish that we could be there to help you out. Otherwise, crush the month. Can't wait to see you guys in Nashville. Other than that, let's have a wonderful 30 days until I see you again, or a couple of weeks before I see you again. Okay, guys? Thanks.
Go.
Appreciate you. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.